As a spiritual awakening begins to happen through us, I'm sure you're aware that you get bombarded with lots of information, loads of ideas, and it can often be difficult to piece it all together at the start. And it's also awfully difficult to sometimes know where you are on the journey, where you're at and how you're doing. So I found 5 things in my journey that were good little indicators that I was doing a little bit better than perhaps I thought I was on this journey. So here's those 5 signs that you're doing reasonably well spiritually. Firstly, I just want to say a big thank you and welcome to our new subscribers. If you've subscribed in the last few days, thanks. We've seen a bit of a boom here, and that's, fun. It's all part of the journey, not that it's the goal, but it's the journey. And this really is a co-creation between me and you. I couldn't do it without you. I really couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much for being here. So for the new subscribers and the old subscribers too, thanks for staying with this crazy lunatic. Okay. 5 signs then that we're doing a little bit better than perhaps we might think. 1 is that you just start giving yourself a bit more of a break. Now we know this ego's voice, don't we? The ego's like, oh, you suck, oh, you'll never get this. It's the one that creates so much resistance inside of ourselves. And this journey is about lessening that resistance, right? And how do we do that? Well, we just lighten up on ourselves. And you'll notice that once in a while, a nice kind thought might come in. Now we know if it comes from fear, if a thought or emotion comes from fear, it's coming from the ego. But if it comes from somewhere neutral or nice, we know that it's coming from you, or the universe inside of you. So one thing that we might see if we're doing better than we might think, but we're waking up a little bit faster than we might think as well, is that we just begin to lighten up on ourselves. We see, number 2, the distinction between us and that egoic sense of identity in the mind, this one that says I or you in the mind as it's speaking to us, this identity creator that tends to be the manufacturing area for a hell of a load of pain and misery in our life. So the second sign then is that we're really beginning to be able to, not all the time, because we learn on the job, right? And even the best people at this still get slipped up. As one time my teacher, who I'm certain is enlightened, and not even certain that that's really a thing anyway. And he said a few weeks ago, gosh, even I tripped up this week. Something got me, I was in this mindset, and then that was that. And of course he recovered very quickly, and he even said, I bet you guys didn't even notice, and we were all there like, no, we didn't see. So that's because, though, from my perspective, the ego gets subtler and subtler and subtler, and it gets sneakier and sneakier. Of course, the ego's grown up with you. It knows you better than you know you, right? So as it gets subtler and sneakier and cleverer, it knows how to get you and get you to believe in that identity format in the mind, and then causes you misery, because that's what it loves to do. But thank God for that misery, because then we can use that to grow. 3, you realise that you don't have to be perfect. None of us are perfect. That's the human condition, and that's the perfection of this journey. You don't have to be perfect to start yoga. You don't have to be perfect to approach this journey. You are where you are, and that's good enough. As we do these sadhana, what we call sadhana in yoga, which is the spiritual practice that bring about the highest aliveness in your system and bring about the highest potential in your life, is here to get rid of these bad habits. We tend to cling on to them forever, don't we? And you are where you are, and if you're bringing these bad habits to the journey, that's fine. You can bring them to the journey and keep going for as long as it feels right for you to do so. It's fine to have vices, fine to have crutches along the journey. There's a great sage, I think it's Sri Siddhartha Maharaj, who smokes lots of tobacco. That's a vice, right? And these things are left in the enlightened beings just to show us that we don't have to be perfectly pure. My gosh, especially when we're just starting the journey and we're totally not pure and we're doing loads and loads and loads of silly things. We can look at enlightened beings and think, gosh, I'm so far away from that. Let me just lie to myself, pretend I'm that, and tell everybody else that I'm that. Oh gosh, I'm this wonderful spiritual being. It doesn't really work like that, and I have fallen prey to that a few times in my life, you know. So we don't have to be perfect. You don't. You know, this is a relationship between you and life, and life's not keeping count, but you know, you probably are. And it's about how we can satisfy that divine element, satisfy our self to the thing that created us, not that that's separate, because we are that thing anyway. And we know that we don't have to be perfect, but we know that we're making steps, and that steps to be towards that perfection, not that perfection truly exists, but step towards that balanced state of being is all that we really need to satisfy what we're here for. 4, you begin noticing the changes. This is the biggest sign, you know, that you're doing better than you think on the journey, is because we can get muddled up, can't we, and so focused this way and so focused in our own crap sometimes that we forget that we're changing. And sometimes there'll be moments in our life to remind us that we'll be presented with an opportunity, or something will pop up in our life, and we'll deal with it in our new enlightened state of being. And then but we'd have dealt with it in a different way, and a couple of moments might pass and we might look back and think, gosh, I've changed, you know, I'd have dealt with that in a really different way before. I'd have done this really negative thing, and now I'm different. I'm responding to life differently, and that's the beauty of it, and that's what attracts, and this is how the law of attraction really works, beautiful circumstances to yourself. More wonderful circumstances to yourself that you will know how to respond to and gain the best out of. That's true abundance. That's true prosperity. And I think that's what we're all working towards. 5, the 5th sign that you're doing better than you think, is that you start to feel lighter inside this beingness. Maybe at the start of the journey the body feels even heavier because we have to sit upright, right, with our spines nice and erect and tight, and the body's not used to that, and it feels really heavy and like, oh god, I can't hold this body up so much anymore. But in time we train that. So whilst the physical body might be feeling a hell of a lot heavier, inside there's a lightness, isn't there? There's a lightheartedness. And if we've transcended the body, only in this aspect that I'm speaking now, in the sense that you can feel the energy underneath your body, and you perhaps identify more so with that than the actual physical body, then you're starting to feel light as yourself. You know, the feeling of who you are is light, and the more we connect to this, the more the ego will get sucked into that vacuum of the beingness that you are, and we just start feeling lighter. Less botherings happening upstairs, less thinking's happening. Of course you can think, you can plan, you can do wonderful things with your mind, and your mind will become your best friend at one point in the journey. But whilst it's not, it's best to just keep dropping it into the feeling sense of who we are. And then when we do that, we become lighter. We almost begin to levitate. I think there's stories of yogis learning to levitate, and I think it was somebody in China visited, or there's some sort of something going on in China a few thousand years ago that was the what's the word I'm looking for? The inspiration for the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I've never actually watched the movie, I've just watched Sadhguru talking about it. I just think it's so interesting, because though we can't actually physically levitate, although some areas of training of yoga will help you do that, I mean it's very exaggerated in the movies, you may be a tiny bit off the floor, but that's because of this lightness of the beingness, and the more we identify with this, the less we are attached to gravity. Now, don't take that as I'm going to jump off a 7-story building, because inevitably that won't end well. This requires serious training, and it's not an area that I'm interested in, and that I've never gone down, and I never really wish to go down. This is just me believing it. So take that for what you will. It's dangerous to believe things, isn't it? But if somebody's dedicated their life to it and created that for themselves, this mini levitation, then great for them, and that's fantastic, and I think we should respect their achievements. So, those are the 5 signs that you're doing a little bit better than perhaps you thought you might have been on this spiritual journey. One little added thing that I might find, and people sometimes probably think, oh gosh, here comes the bit where Jamie sells his products, but it's not about that. It's not about that. But although it is a bit, you know, because I have to live, and this seems to be my way of creating a living for myself. But Sadhana is so important on this journey. Sadhana just means that daily spiritual practice that we do. And we'll know that we're doing better on the journey if we're consistently practicing our sadhana on a daily basis. My teacher said to me the other day, don't worry, just do your sadhana and everything will work out. It's inevitable there's going to be progressions. Just shut up, do your sadhana and you'll progress perfectly. And that's true. It just works like that. Even if we're grumpy, even if we've got a constant mind going on, we just get on the mat, we do the sadhana, we may not feel better. Might do, most of the time we do, but if we've got a real attitude going on, we may not feel better, we may not see the benefits of that sadhana for a couple of weeks, but the benefits are brewing. And the more and more we do the sadhana, the more we cultivate this wonderful light energy inside of us as a feeling sense. I don't mean energy as in airy fairy, no, I just mean that's just our real experience of it. And it's from that energy then that we attract fantastic opportunities into our life. So if you want to engage on some of the sadhana, you're having a tough time and you want to make this a little bit easier, down below you can sign up for the one-to-one awakening coaching. Getting busy, so I can't promise that I'll offer you a space, but I can promise you that I'll read the application. Of course, as well, down below there's a free breathing practice that's called cosmic double breathing. It will snap you out of one of those moments where we're in a really negative momentum loop. When we're being negative, momentum's got us. We have to snap out of these moments by taking action, and that double breathing process down below will help you to do that. As well, if you're going through an awakening journey, it's the final thing I promise, and you're stuck and lost, then you're more than welcome to join a free community that we created down below in the Facebook group. That's free, and it's a great support network because there are just so many amazing people in there. And I know I thank people at the start. I just want to thank you guys in there as well for making that a real community feel. That's nice, and that was the intention of that. And you guys make that group what it is. So thank you. That'll do. Have a lovely evening.